Here is my Omega race with the custom background art that I made installed in the game. Now this camera quality, I'm not so sure about. Do the best I can. Got the lights off in the room. I'm kind of standing in a place that blocks some of the light coming from another room that hits the side of the game. Hopefully it shows the reactive artwork, that it is definitely reactive. In fact, standing here, comparing, at least to my eyes, not sure if the camera's fully picking this up, it's more reactive than the original art. At least the blue certainly is. The original artwork, I cannot really see much glow from the blue at all. A little bit, but not nearly as nice as that nice center blue streak on my reproduction. The orange looks pretty close. It's the brightest, obviously, of the colors in the original artwork. That seems to match pretty well. The red is also brighter on my reproduction than it is on the original, but the original's, 30-something years old. So, it's going to have some fade, I would assume, over time. But it certainly doesn't look to me to be really anything jarring that would make you go, oh my goodness, this background art isn't the original artwork. I mean, it looks fantastic. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. Makes the game look like it's floating there in space, reflected off the halfway silvered mirror. I notice I have a little bowing at the bottom of the screen. Not sure what's causing that. Just the walls, the outside walls of the rectangle playfield area are a little bit bowed right at the bottom. Not a big deal, but I did notice that it's there. The brightness, I could turn it up a bit. I tried to get the brightness and the contrast to the point where the focus was good. The ships, if I turned it up brighter, get a little bit too fuzzy, and the focus adjustments in the high voltage area, and I don't really want to mess around with that if I don't have to. Also, messing with the adjustments just for the brightness and contrast is kind of a pain. The way the monitor is mounted in this cabinet, you just have to open the coin door and can kind of get your head in there enough to see where the dials are, and then try to get your hand in there and adjust the dials. It's kind of a pain in the neck. But here we go. It's up, it's running, and it's got background art. Don't know that I can play very well with the camera right in the middle of the screen. Give it a shot here. You can see stray vectors. I have the high score replacement chip. It's a non-volatile RAM chip that replaces the RAM chip that's on the board that originally held the high scores, and that memory was kept by the NiCad battery that was on the board that usually leaks corrosion battery alkaline all down the board, taking out a bunch of the chips in the process, which is why it's hard to find an original working Omega Race board. This one, there was just a couple chips on the back of the board that had a little bit of corrosion, nothing on the front. When I was playing, I mentioned stray vectors. While you play, every now and then you can see stray lines that show up. And that's a known issue with Omega Race, where it just has something to do with the way it was made. They have made reproduction boards for Omega Race because so many have been destroyed from the battery damage that someone has made replacement PCBs exactly like the original PCBs that you can buy and move the chips from your game over, or buy all the chips and solder them in, the chips, resistors, everything, and make your own brand new Omega Race board. And they still have those stray vectors usually when you're near the inside or outside walls. So it's doesn't have anything to do with the board going bad over time. The reproductions, brand new reproductions, have the same effect. This particular game, the spinner on this game is the original gray code spinner. Later they moved to a potentiometer, and the output from the potentiometer went to a circuit board that changed the potentiometer signal into a gray code signal that the game understood. But being a potentiometer, there's a slight dead spot, so as you're spinning it, occasionally you'll hit that dead spot and it won't turn smoothly, whereas the original gray code optical encoder does spin in complete circles with no dead spot. The encoder, it's actually not an optical encoder. The encoder is a round fiber disc with metal overlay, and then there are contacts, 4 above and 4 below on the underside of the disc. The disc, at least the one I took apart, the one that's in here, the disc has copper contacts on the top and the bottom. I don't know if it uses both the top and the bottom or only the top. There are 8 contacts. I took the original one apart, cleaned it all up. There was grease in it, which I assumed meant it was a dielectric grease original to the mechanism, because they're not made to be taken apart. You have to break some plastic, drill some plastic to get the thing apart. So I don't see how anyone could have added that. So when I put it back together, I put a very light coat of a silicone grease, Super Lube brand grease, dielectric grease, and it seems to be working fine so far. It spins smoothly, and it doesn't seem to make any skips or sudden movements. So far I'm happy with it. There has been a reproduction of an optical replacement. There is now currently a replacement being made from a different person. I thought about buying one, but so far this spinner works. It's the original spinner to the cabinet, as far as I know. It's definitely period correct. So if it's lasted this long, and I took it apart and was able to clean it and re-lube it and put it back together, and it still works, then I'm thinking I'll just stick with this one. And if it breaks, then I'll look into one of the reproductions. Apart from that, that's about it for this cabinet. Like I said, I got to put the high score non-volatile RAM replacement in. It's just pulling out the original RAM chip that used to have the battery, giving it a charge so that it would remember the high scores, whereas the non-volatile RAM doesn't need that. It saves the high score, and then when the machine's turned off, it's still in there without needing any power. I'm happy with the monitor. I'm happy with the artwork. I got a replacement control panel from a friend of mine, the one that I got with this cabinet. The artwork was torn off by the start buttons. It looked pretty bad. This one is, all the artwork is there. Because the glass in the left-hand side of the cabinet, the glass has got a little bit of bubbling. You can't really see it unless you look for it. I've decided I'm not going to try to restore this to like new. I am just getting it into a playable state where it looks and plays like an original cabinet, and not sanding off the sides, repainting, putting new artwork on. I'm lucky it's got the front kick plate art that's in really good condition. I guess the last thing I have to do is the coin door's a bit rough. I might take that apart and use some chrome polish to polish up the metal pieces on the coin door, but that's about it. Other than that, and that chip, that's about all I need to do to this game, and it will be done. It's my third Omega race. I do intend to keep this one. I know I say that about all my games, and somehow I end up selling most of them, but having had two of these, missing them, now having a third, and making that custom background art replacement, the ordeal I went through fixing the board to get it running while accidentally frying something more and having to do more repair work, frying the monitor, having to repair the monitor, the amount of time and effort I put into getting this to where it is now, and the fact that I like it good enough that I've had 3 of them, I really, really do not want to get rid of this one. I want to keep this one. So now that this is pretty much done, hopefully I can get back to my other projects. My Tempest monitor is down right now. I'm waiting for a friend who's making a parts order for some stuff that he's going to throw the $5 worth of parts that I need into his order. And then I've got this light gun game that has just kind of been on hold because I think my guns are bad and I don't want to spend the money for new guns. So I really need to dig into that some more and find out exactly what is wrong with it and decide what to do with it. But this video is all about the Omega Race, the finished project. I'll turn a light on. I'm not sure what that's going to do. See, I'll take the camera out here. So yes, the control panel over on this side, control panel I had with it, the artwork was all torn here. So this one looks much better. You can kind of see right here where somebody's scratched some stuff into it, but it's not really, if you don't look for it, you don't see it. It's one of those you have to have the light at just the right angle to actually see that there's some scratches there. If you just look at it from a normal height while you're playing, you don't even really see that. Like I said, took the spinner apart and rebuilt it. It's nice and smooth, it works great. Artwork there, that's a normal fluorescent bulb. Some people put the black light bulbs in there, which is kind of cool because it'll throw black light out. If you're wearing something that will react to the black light, it'll give it a black light effect. But originally it was just a normal fluorescent bulb. The bulb that's up behind here is the black light. It's a blue black light, which makes the artwork glow. This is a little bit unusual. Pretty sure I showed it in one of my videos. There's actually 7 small individual bulbs that light up the marquee. It's not a fluorescent fixture in there. As I said, the coin door's got some rust. Also, if you notice, the 25-cent plastics are different from the right-hand side and the left-hand side, which I don't mind that. I think that's kind of funny. But if if I happen to run across one, I think the left one is the correct one. I'm not positive. I'd have to look at the flyer or somebody else's machine to see which one of those styles is correct. But I don't mind it. Kick plate art, as I said, I got lucky. It's in really good shape. It doesn't have, a big faded spot in the middle like some do, because people would put their feet there. There's a little bit of dirt here that might clean up a bit better, but it's all in all pretty good. It's got the original plastic kick plate here, which is interesting that the screws along the top, not screws, staples along the top, the top 3 aren't holding it in. Actually, now I look at the bottom staples have come out a bit. So that's, again, I'll probably hammer those 3 original staples back in, or maybe pull them out and get some new staples that are the right width and tap them in if they bend up and don't want to go in. But I'm not going to pull that piece off and replace it. Again, I'm just going for the original patina, I guess you say. The side art's okay. It's got cracking, which most of these have, because the side art expanded at a different rate than the cabinet, and so they get some cracks in them. The back I can't show you because I could show you, but I don't really want to flip it around into the light. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to see that. But there was, for years, it looks like there was tape over the top vent holes. And that kept light from getting into the cabinet and ruining the effect of the game floating in space, because it must have been missing that back artwork for quite a while, because the back artwork blocks the vents and keeps the light from coming in. So somebody, after that art was gone, when you play the game, if there's any light behind the cabinet, it spills in through the vent holes and lights up the inside of the cabinet, which takes away from the actual 3D type effect. So they put some tape over the vent holes, which of course is not a very good idea to do anyway. Taping up vent holes. Actually, here, since I'm doing this and making everybody queasy by moving the camera around, I'll go ahead and get a flashlight. There we go. So there is remnants of tape. There was a piece of tape that went all the way right to left and covered up those original vent holes, which I took off. And then this was at the local arcade show, and I believe for that, the person that I got the cabinet from had taped a piece of black cardboard inside the game, also to cover the vent holes to keep light from getting in and spoiling the effect. So I'm not gonna. I could sand that down. I could repaint it, but again, I'm just gonna. It's fine the way it is. Going for the original patina look on this, and not going absolutely crazy with trying to do a restoration to pristine condition. This is a nice survivor machine. So that's about it for probably the final version of my Omega Race videos. If you noticed on that high score screen, when I say that I've got the chip that'll let it save the high scores, unfortunately it only saves the highest score for each mode. Omega Race is a little weird in that you can play 3 ships 1 player, 3 ships 2 player, or for extra money you could play 5 ships. No, 6 ships. 6 ships for 1 player, or 6 ships for 2 players. So 25 cents, 50 cents, 25 cents, 50 cents, $1. It only saves the high score for high scores. So you see this here with the whole table in it. It only saves that top one. This is BAA. The rest will get reset when the game is reset. Now, I had thought about posting on the KLOV forums and asking if anybody ever thought about changing that. There's a lot of arcade games where people have modified the code to save more scores than usual, or save longer digit scores. If it only went up to 999, they'd make it go 1 extra digit. With all the reproductions out there, I'm kind of surprised I didn't see anyone ask that information anywhere online. But that might be nice, since you can get non-volatile RAM replacements and people don't have to worry about putting a battery on the board to actually have it score more high scores, save more high scores. But again, that won't make me make another video, because I'm done. I am satisfied. I am very happy. And that's it for my Omega Race videos.